What's up, guys? Don't mind, I'm driving, so the phone might be a little bouncy, but I just felt the need to share a quick story, a little bit of a nutshell of my week. And I just want to share that I'm still processing a lot of thoughts and emotions, but at the same time, I found a little bit of encouragement on this drive. It's a very fresh situation, but I felt the need, as God's encouraging me, let me hopefully encourage somebody else. But really quickly, just in a nutshell, the best I can. Today's Saturday, and so last week, Friday, we end up taking in a little kitten, probably only a few weeks old, that was down the road from us, struggling. It must have been away from its litter. The mom must have abandoned the kittens, or maybe passed itself. I'm not sure. We ended up finding out that the litter didn't make it after like a day, but we found the little kitten all by himself. And so reluctantly, a little bit, just because of many different elements, but we end up taking in this little kitten. This little guy spent a day or two really just washing him and trying to get him back to like being okay. Flea infested and just very weak. We spent a couple days just nursing him, getting him back to being okay, and he ended up being good, like gaining a little bit of weight, just a little bit, very gradual, tiny little guy. But you know what happens is you get attached very easily, very quickly, and very hard. At least I do. I don't know about you, but I'm a cat person. I'm animals, period, but love cats. And this little guy just captured our hearts, especially mine, I'll say that. Missed him when I would go to work, couldn't wait to come home and just cuddle with him. He was just tiny, and you would cuddle like behind your neck and just crawl and just loving. And he brought such a happiness, joy, calmness, all the things into our little house. Things turned for worse yesterday. So this is very fresh. This is a very heavy situation, fresh. I know it's going to sound very small to many people. Every situation's very different. I get it. I know this is very small compared to many. I get it. But what I'm sharing is the emotion and the impact of a situation. And how can we focus different? What can we focus on and push our perspective onto that brings some type of healing? And so at that moment, last night, he just wasn't acting himself. He didn't seem right. And so I got home from work, and he was declining. We weren't sure what was going on. We're like, what in the world? He was doing good, and now he's lost weight. I don't know. Just didn't seem right. So we ended up taking him to the emergency vet, and he just declined so quickly. And they ended up telling us, like, yeah, he's probably not going to make it. That was, hard to hear, but I guess just our efforts wasn't quite enough at a young age. Needed more nutrition from his mom, and maybe he had a genetic disease passed on. We're not sure. They're not really sure, but they said he just was not well, and it got really bad really quickly, and that was really hard to see, because we spent a week with this little guy. In 1 week, you have so many memories, so many moments. It was so good. But he ended up not making it last night. We had to let him go. And that was, and still is, obviously extremely difficult. I'm going to keep this short the best I can, but it's crazy how attached we get, right, to just an animal. Like, we can logically think it through, that it's just an animal, it's okay, he doesn't have a spirit or soul, he's not going, or a soul, we don't know fully, but we know they're not going to heaven, it's just an animal, it'll be okay. But our hearts get attached so easily to God's creation, and I think that's okay. And it's also okay to grieve and be sad, at least for a little while. And so that's definitely where we are. It's definitely a heaviness of sadness, maybe regret, I don't know, almost upset. And it's crazy how these situations can so easily get you to a place of just, it sucks the desire out of you, the passion, the happiness, and even hard to function at times. Like, that's what hard situations do if you let them. And so really, as a believer and a Christian, it's like when you put on the armor of God, right, as a part of your identity, you put that on. The biggest purpose is to stand your ground, sure, against the enemy. But man, it feels like in moments like this, it's hard just to stand. And so you have to be reminded of something instead of focusing on just your situation. And so I just wanted to just share an ounce of encouragement, because that's what I'm getting. I just on this drive, have had something already planned that I really don't feel like doing, because I'm just, that's where my emotions are. I don't feel like doing anything, but you need to discipline yourself to keep moving and doing what you gotta do, or moving forward. But in just this drive, I was reminded by God of who He is. And sometimes that's all you need. It's just be reminded of who God is. It doesn't always change your situation. It very often doesn't change your situation. Like, you can't control the things like this. But you can find comfort in Christ. You can find comfort in the Lord. But what does that look like? What does that mean? Is, for me personally, I know there's going to be a thing that takes time. Like, I miss Him dearly. I miss Him. I loved Him. It's going to be very hard. Everything reminds you of Him. That's just reality. But another reality is that God is still good. And He is this God that we serve, that He does these things that somehow, even in your pain, in your situation, in grieving, in these horrible feelings, there's always another side. There's always this other side of it, where there's either lessons learned, there's a testimony through it, or He just turns it around somehow for good. It doesn't make it easier at this moment. It doesn't take away the pain, but you can trust Him. And I think that's the biggest part, is nothing's going to take my pain and sadness that I'm going to miss this little cat. Like, I wanted him a part of our family, and he became it. It's all sad, period. But I can still trust God that, you know what, maybe we were just meant to give him a really good week. You know, I'm reminded of a good friend of mine that I just met recently, that he shared his story. He's in his 60s now, but he shared his story that he didn't know his father basically all his life. And he ended up connecting back with his dad. And got to spend a week with his father before his dad passed. And he said it was the best week ever. Like, he just fully enjoyed it. This 1 week he got to spend with his dad before his dad passed. That's all he had. Never really had his father around all his life. Didn't have a relationship. But he got to spend this week with his dad, and he loved it. It was the best week ever. So he got to give that piece to him, to his father, and his father got to give something to him. Like, and that's bigger, right? That's a way bigger situation. It's human connection and relationship, and those that are we want to have salvation with the Lord, but similar emotion. So I think of right now, I try to focus on, I got to have a week with this little cat that brought joy and happiness and just a different element into our house. I got to have that. We got to enjoy that and embrace it, and we got to give him a good week that he might not have had. And so I try to focus on that, but also be reminded that God is so good. He sees our pain. He's walking with us through it. And I don't see it. I don't even really desire it at this moment, but I do know there will be another side. And I do know there will be lessons that we learned from this. And so the best you can, just like I told my wife this morning, just do your best today. Just do your best. You're going to be sad. Like, I'm sad. I'm genuinely just sad. But we just do our best. It's okay for the sadness to hit, but do your best to be distracted by other things, to move forward. But we need to be reminded that God is still good. He's the God that can turn things around for good. And so prepare for the lesson. Prepare for the good on the other side. Because that's how good God is. So be encouraged, no matter your situation, to still trust God, to find comfort in Him, and just realize there's another side to it. Even if it's just one day at a time, it's okay.